Hello guys, once again it's Matt, and today we have another video. Thank you all the members, all the patrons, make sure to subscribe. And today we have a little bit of a different video, guys. The guys over the Latam Discord did a Latin American Ground Forces 3 of how it would be like. Basically what I do as well with other tech trees and stuff, but they did a way better job than I did. And they did it for tanks. So I will leave the link for this forum post in the description. You go out there, you vote for it, and yeah, let's talk a little bit about it. I'm not gonna show every single thing. I will leave it to you guys to actually, just probe a little bit, or just, explore a little bit with the post. But yeah, the link will be in the description. You can vote it up. If you want to see it, of course, vote yes. I mean, come on, guys. Come on. So, yeah. So here it is. Basically, this is the tech tree, okay? It is a very big tech tree, and it is quite interesting. It would be, of course, one of them quote-unquote minor nations, but it has a lot of vehicles that are not really copy-paste that can be added. All of these vehicles, they're either a slight modification onwards, so it's at least a very slight modification of a vehicle that is already in the game, or it's like running to until it's something that is completely new. So that's the good part about it. So let's talk a little bit about it. And of course, if you go over here, you can check it out, the whole tree going down. You can click here to see the full tech tree in one image. Here we have basically the amount of vehicles that are the parts, with the graph of how, of how many vehicles are there for each country. So, of course, Brazil, Argentina, and Chile will be the largest ones. But of course, even Brazil being the largest one here, it would be hard to actually have a full tech tree with just Brazilian vehicles. You would have a lot of copy-paste and a lot of, holes. So even if they added something like just a Brazilian tech tree, or even Argentinian or Chilean or something like that, they would need to complement with other nations. And with that, oh, I keep clicking the wrong thing. Yeah, it's right here, not there, right? So yeah, even if they added something like that, it would be basically, at the end of the day, a Latin American tech tree anyway, right? Because you would need, some gaps to be filled with other nations from that. But yeah, as you can see, we have Venezuela, Peru, Mexico, Cuba, Colombia, Bolivia as the bigger ones, and some of the other ones as well. República Dominicana, Uruguay, Paraguay, Nicaragua, Ecuador, as I said, the other ones, Bolivia, Colombia, everything. So a lot of countries coming from Latin America, of course. The Brazilians would be mainly American or European vehicles modified, or our own modifications. The Argentinians, kind of the same. The Chilean, Chile as well. Cuba, for example, would be mainly Russian vehicles. So Venezuela, a little bit here and there. So it's a little bit of a very diverse, actually, tech tree, which would be very cool. They will do a helicopter, airplane, blue water, coastal fleet, everything like that, tech trees as well, and it will be covering it. And before we go to the vehicles themselves, just remember, if you want me to actually fully, talk about each of these vehicles like I normally do with my own tech trees that I do, make sure to let me know in the comments. I don't plan to do it, but because I want you guys to explore it for yourselves. But still, if you want to see something like that, you can. So I got some vehicles over here. Of course, you can always pause it and take a look. As I said, I'm not gonna talk about every single one, but I will talk about some of them, starting with this one, the CRR, or normally called the Carro de Reconhecimento sobre Rodas. It's basically further development of the VBR, which was basically a prototype. They use the Greyhound as a basis, so it is just a modified, basically, Greyhound. So a little bit different, but almost the same. So this is the idea that, on the very least, it's something like this, a modified vehicle from another, country. So it's kind of a copy-paste, but not really, you know, at the end of the day. We have other ones like, for example, the Lechki Tank Peruanski, the Peruvian light tank, which is a very similar tank to the Panzer 38, right? You can see the resemblance of it. And it's basically, it was used in the Equatorian-Peruvian War in 1941, and it was basically just the Czechoslovakian exported version of that tank, right? So you can see all the information about it, the cannon, everything like that. You can click on all the vehicles. For example, we have the Chevrolet 1/2 ton over here, 1.5 ton, Argentinian 1941-42 model of the Chevrolet 1.5 ton truck that had no roof and carried a 20mm Arlington gun. So very, very cool. It just has the explanation and everything. The engine, Chevrolet inline 6, the gun, everything like that. So you can click on all of them and just check it out. For example, for rank 2 over here, we have the first Cascavel, which is basically a rattlesnake in Portuguese, right? It is basically the further modification of the Greyhound from the CRR, CRM vehicles, for example. Is just using a 37mm gun over here. Shortly afterwards, they started using the 90mm, so it's very, very interesting. You can see the engine is a Benz engine, so very, very cool. Max speed, everything. M3A3 Lee, of course, welded hull variant of the M3 Lee. That would be very interesting. I don't think we have a version that has a welded hull variant of the M3, but if we do, let me know in the comments. So yeah, technically not really a copy paste as they say here. Yeah, we don't have that variant in the game because we have the normal variant of it, right? So yeah, very interesting. Many vehicles, as you see. We have the first Urutu over here, which is another snake. You know, just for your information, Brazilian vehicles are normally called from snakes, you know, so there's a lot of snakes in the naming, especially like after World War II, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, so Urutu, another snake. It's an armored vehicle, general purpose, and yeah, the EE11. It is basically like an APC kind of situation, you know. It's an armored vehicle that it's used for many things. In this case, he would be using a 76mm L23A1 gun, a diesel, a Mercedes-Benz engine. So yeah, many of these vehicles are used with just a small arms, machine gun, for example, on top. It's just a multi-purpose vehicle, right? We have Firefly Modificado. So basically, a Firefly that was made by Argentina in the 60s. The engines were replaced by a more powerful Ford engine V8. So yeah, very interesting. Of course, locally produced APC-BC, APDS, and HE. So very, very cool to see something like this. And we have many of these like our own designs from Latin America, right? For example, this Carabajo over here, Chilean design, wheeled APC. So it's just an APC, lightly armored, but it has the 20mm as well over here. So very, very cool, right? We have the Urutu with the 90mm. So this is like used by a lot of our tanks here in Brazil back in the day. So the Urutu, the Cascavel used this gun as well. And it was even used in the Iraq War, if I'm not mistaken, right? So it is a very, very interesting design because these tanks are quite large, you know, they are quite the high tanks. I already stood next to these tanks. They're kind of like, you can see the size of it. So they're not small tanks because they're made to be used as an APC as well, right? But at the end of the day, they do have a very punchy 90mm, and it can be used even in the latest models. We can have even heat and other stuff like that. So it is very, very interesting. We have some other weird stuff, like for example the BTR-37 or BTR-23, which are basically just BTR-60s with guns, you know, so to be an AA system. So very interesting, right? I mean, it's the open version of the BTR-60. So very, very cool. Here we have one of the latest models of the Cascavel. So as you see, it is basically the same evolution from the Greyhound. Remember this is all based off of the Greyhound, but of course uses a 90 millimeter, 50 cal. Is this a 50 cal? It looks like a 50 cal or a mag or something. So yeah, it has laser rangefinder, passive day night visions. So yeah, very interesting vehicles. These were used in the Iraqi war, if I'm not mistaken. We have some other interesting things like the Stallion, the T-46 Stallion. So this is an IS-2M, so we don't have in-game an IS-2M yet. It has a revised armor package on the hull especially, improved mobility, other minor upgrades like night vision and stuff, so very interesting IS-2. Same kind of line I think as the normal ones, but a little bit more armor. Not really more armor, it's just a more well-designed armor, it's more like that. For rank 5, for example, of course, we have another snake, which is the Sukuri. A normal like tank that was used as basically a tank destroyer, you know, so as you see, very similar like bouncing turret as French tanks. So very, very interesting as well. We have like versions of the it doesn't have a picture here, but versions of the Urutu for AA systems. We have the Tamoyo, which was basically our own Leopard. You know, it was the first proper medium tank, as they say over here. It was basically a tank that was made to be like a Leopard, to be used like a Leopard. As you can see, it's very similar in the way that it is, and you know, the idea was to be used like that back in the day. I don't remember if this was actually like properly built for like large numbers, but still, we have a 105 version as well. As you see, very different tank, and of course, we always will have the. Where is it? We have the TAM, of course, Argentinian tank. We already have it in the game, but still. We have the T-55Ms with the Malyutka ATGMs. That would be very, very interesting to see. And of course, the Osorio that a lot of people ask for, you know. This would be the main battle tank that the Brazilians actually made to compete with stuff like the Abrams, etc., right? It never saw full production, you know, only had like 2 or 3 prototypes or something. We had one version with the 105 and one version with a 120 millimeter, and it was basically just using a lot of like parts and stuff from other countries, and some stuff designed by our own country. But yeah, it was a very, very fast tank, you know, L7 with the 105. And if I'm not mistaken, the 120 version used, yeah, the Giat, which is a French gun. Of course, this would be. It's funny because this would be like the version that would be, if I'm not mistaken, made for export. The 120 to be on par with the more modern tanks that were being produced back in the day. And this one would be used by Brazil, but they eventually, because of economic stuff in the late 80s, they basically just left it out and never produced the tank. But it is still a very interesting tank. As I said, it is supposed to be, it doesn't have a lot of armor, so it's supposed to be like a fast, like surprise attack tank. But yeah, would be very, very cool to see in the game, right? So yeah, just to wrap it up, we have some other stuff. The Chaparrals, the Peugeots with, you know, anti-air systems, so the Mistral in this case. We have some Leopard 2A4s, as you see here with the Chilean ammunition, more powerful DM33A2 APF SDS, so very cool. And even the CHL version, which has basically a thermal profile, you know, camouflage over here. So very, very cool as well. Some interesting things, like for example, a Marder from Chile that it doesn't really have an ATGM, but you can always have a guy on the back with a spike missile. So that would be very interesting. I mean, it would be kind of hard to shoot because you would need to actually be like from the back, you know, to be able to shoot the missile, and probably not carry a lot of ammunition, like 2-3 rounds maybe. But still, it would be cool to see something like this. And we can have some more advanced AA systems, like, for example, the Ecuador's OZA AA, you know, SAM sight system. For rank 8, it wouldn't have a lot of things, but at least we would have the Brazilian Centauro 2 that is supposed to be delivered this year. It's a tank that I don't remember if it's already in the game. I have to check it out, but yeah, as you know, I don't have Italy top tier, but yeah, so very, very cool tank as well. And here we have all the sources and everything like that, and thank you all the guys that actually did this, and you can join their Discord as well. So it's a very, very well thought, like focused suggestion, you know. So you have, if you have the time, just go out there, comment on it, vote for it, because I know maybe for you guys that are not from here, from Latin America, maybe you don't care too much about this, but for people that are actually from here, this would be like the largest of the deals of them all, you know, for a player that plays War Thunder. It would be the coolest thing ever, you know. It really, really would be, because even though sometimes here and there it is kind of a like a little bit of copy paste and stuff like that, it is still our own vehicles, you know. So that would make a lot of difference for somebody that is from these nations. And remember, normally we don't see these types of vehicles or even too much representation at all from any Latin America country in any game, you know. So this would be a major thing for all the communities from all the countries from Latin America that actually play the game. And it would be a little bit cool to the other countries as well, because as you saw, there's a lot of vehicles that are just modifications of existing vehicles in the game, and a lot of vehicles that are just brand new, right? So it would be very cool to see some vehicles that you might love, and it's a little bit different, you know. So yeah. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed. Make sure to subscribe, and I see you guys on the next one. Bye, guys.